A very warm welcome to everyone present over here. I, Vedanti Kohli, moderator from Planotech Media House, would like to introduce you all to our today's webinar session of X Talks, Introduction to Another Avengers Assembled, presented by Planotech Media House, Crafting Transformative Information, a webinar with unstoppable CEOs. Get ready for an unforgettable experience. With this, I would also like to thank Darshan Kumar and Niranjan Krishnamurthy for providing this platform to us. Over to you, Janvi.
Good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to everyone present over here. I, Janvi Rajesh Pawar, moderator from Planotech Media House, would like to welcome you all in our today's webinar session, which is Sports Edition. Now, moving ahead with our today's session, I would like to introduce you all to our first speaker, that is Vaidehi Vaidya, who is a founder MD at Women in Sports India, a writer and a researcher, who would be presenting us today on the topic of Women in Sports, India and myself. Welcome, Vaidehi. Over to you.
Thank you, Janvi. I'm not going to show you any presentation or slides or anything. I just want to talk to all of you and introduce what I've been doing so far. So I'm going to reverse engineer it. So I'm going to start with where I am right now and go backwards. So right now, I am MD, Managing Director and founder of a forum called Women in Sport India, which caters to all women working in sports field, and not just on field, but off field also, or the athletes who were playing before and now working off field. So I work with all of them, and the first aim or the first focus of Women in Sport India is to create an ecosystem in women's sports field. Because in last few years, since I started working in sports, almost 7 years or so, I realized that there are a lot of people working towards betterment of sports and betterment of women's sports, to be exact. But they're working at different level in different states, districts. And India is a big country, right? So unfortunately, the communication between them has a gap. And essentially, Women in Sport India is trying to fill that gap. Through Women in Sport India, I'm trying to enable communication between them, because if you work separately, then automatically it increases your effort. But if you start working together, that effort actually generates more work, more development than working individually. So I believe in that. And that's why I registered my company recently, or registered my forum recently, just before the lockdown, luckily. And I'm completely focusing on that now. And I'm doing a lot of things like talking to different athletes, I have a fabulous webinar coming up as well. So I'm talking to a lot of top level people to understand what needs to be done to develop women's sports and develop women's sports ecosystem. So that is where I am right now. Going back, I think a couple of years back, I started another company called Alter Ego, which basically catered to range of athletes who probably have reached national level, international level. And through my company, I tried to help them develop their brand, and I tried to help them market themselves. And the reason I started it, because when I was working in sports development earlier, I came across a lot of athletes, and I realized that they have beautiful stories. They have a lot of achievements. They are continuously performing at a global level, at a national level. But unfortunately, people did not know about their stories. People did not know about their achievements. People did not know about their medals. So the fundamental reason behind starting Alter Ego was that to make sure that their stories reach a general population of India. And it was a fabulous experience for me because I've worked with a few Olympic athletes. I worked with women athletes. I worked with federations. I worked with organizations, which was amazing experience. And there is a huge scope for that in sports field, and there is a need also. So what I have done now is I've taken alter ego under women in sport India. So I've not stopped that, just that I'll be focusing on women um, under women in sport India. Before that, I used to be in football development specifically because I did a course called Football Industries MBA. In 2013, I graduated, and immediately after my graduation, I got a chance to work with a great company called Asian Football Development Project. It is an Asian company, headquarters in Jordan, and is chaired by Prince Ali of Jordan, who is the younger brother of King Abdullah. And through AFDP, I was able to travel to different countries, interact with different cultures, different people living in different countries, and living in different situations, not just different countries, with different language. And I was just surprised to see how diverse Asia is, and how beautiful it is, and how beautiful the people are in Asia, which we often ignore. um, so I'm absolutely fascinated by Asia and Asian culture, as well as India. It was an amazing journey for me, and I got to get in touch with these great NGOs which are working towards human rights, which are working towards women empowerment, uh, children's rights, nutrition. These are fundamental requirements that many people in Asia or worldwide still haven't got. So it was great to see them work towards that goal, to educate the population where education was not available, even to go there and staying among these fantastic people and educating them, making sure that the next generation is healthy, making sure that the next generation educated through football was just beautiful to see. I mean, football has been a great tool to empower people around the world. So it was a fantastic experience for me. And I am still in touch with many of them. I made a lot of friends during my work. And as well as going back when I did my football industries MBA, my class was absolutely diverse. I think we had about 30 to 35 different people in the class, and I think about 15 different nationalities, and I am in touch with almost 75% of them, which is saying a lot, because obviously they were wonderful people. And that course itself was very illuminating because it was first, I had to leave my country and go and settle in another one for a year where I didn't know anybody. So my classmates became my family members, and I had to adjust because I was living in a hostel, which was the first time for me. And there were cultural differences, there were linguistic differences, there were cuisine differences, but it was great to kind of share that with people, to share one passion, which was football, which made us all a family. And I wish I could go back to that experience again, because wow, that was a one of a kind experience. And the faculty was fabulous. The speakers which came to talk to us were equally fabulous. And I got to watch matches in UK. That was like an experience I've been waiting for, because the stadiums are full of fans and the engagement is so high. they are also excited, they are waving flags. It's very similar to what we see at a cricket match, and to experience that firsthand was a different kind of um, experience altogether, and yeah, I mean, I hope to see that in India one day, and especially for women's sports. I hope to see lot of people coming together in probably a stadium like Salt Lake. So about 1 lakh people for coming for women's football matches or hockey matches. That would be fantastic. And yeah, I hope to see that at one point of time. And that's why we are all together here. I think we have one aim. We want to see more people in sports, and we want to see more support from India as well. So I mean, that is my short story in the sports field. Before that, I was obviously an engineer, like I think 99% of us. So nothing different to talk about in that sector. But obviously, engineering introduced me to football, and I will give full credit to engineering for bringing me in sports field. So yeah, I mean, that is my story. And I could go on, but obviously I know that there's a time limit. So yeah. So if you have any questions, do ask.
It's actually a good thought, and even we are wishing that uh, stadiums like hockey and everyone should also get fit, like the cricket stadium gets. Like example, Wankhede Stadium of Mumbai. It's a huge stadium, and when it's actually cheerful for cricket, it's on another level. The
Yeah,
enthusiasm, the energy is, oh my god.
exactly.
And we really wish for the same things to happen with the other sports as usual.
Yeah.
And I really hope this day comes soon.
Yeah, it will. I believe that. I believe that because it has started already. So I truly believe that it will happen soon.
So there are some questions like, for example, uh, okay, playing is something that we could understand that everyone loves to it and everything. When did you have that thought that now it's a time I even want others to know, okay, this is the time where we should accept this women's and going and having those helping hands, like joining those helping hands so that we could bring that change, revolution that we want. When did that thought came into your head?
Mm, honestly, it's a need of an hour. On actually, if you ask anybody, any woman working in sports field, if you ask her, she's always going to say, "I need help." Right? And I was one of those women. When I started in sports, I needed help to navigate the sports field because it was comparatively new to me. I had never been from a sports background before. I never, I mean, I used to play, but not at international level. So I was very new to the whole concept of sports administration. So I needed some help when I started. And if you ask any woman, like I said, she's going to say the same thing. And to provide that help, you need an ecosystem. You cannot do it alone. You need people, you need to know people working in different fields of sports. Like for example, right now Aparna is working in badminton, right? So if I want to go into administration of badminton, I'm going to need some help from somebody like her, you know, to give me an idea of how badminton field works. So if I don't know Aparna, I cannot ask her for help, right? So that is where the idea of creating an ecosystem for women's sports um, was started in a way. And I'm trying my best to grow that ecosystem, trying to get in touch with these wonderful women working in.
Okay. So as you said, that it is a little bit harder for females generally in that case because there is a need for a guidance, a mentor.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, do you really believe that it is quite easier for males or men's in sports in comparison to the females? Is it?
Uh, I am of the opinion that men and women both face similar challenges. Um, Entering the field, probably they face similar challenges, but once you enter the field, I would say men probably move up faster. And I'm talking about the administration side of it, probably because you see very few women at maybe administration side of or as committee members. You see very few women. I was talking to many athletes, women athletes, and I have a series called Plan B where I talk to different athletes in different sports, and they said the same thing. We were the only one at so and so conference or so and so committee meeting or so and so meeting, right? So we obviously need more women. Point number one, more women coming into administration of sports. The number has to increase, but it is also true that it is little bit difficult maybe to kind of progress higher uh, for women than men. But again, getting an entry is equally difficult. It's not very different for men than women.
Thank you so much, Vedhi ma'am, for such a great words, for such a great discussion we had with you. Thank you, ma'am. Now we are welcoming Aparna Popat with us, who will be speaking on the topic sports. She is a two-times winner in badminton Olympics. Over to you, Aparna ma'am.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for the introduction. And I think very quickly, let me tell you what I have done in terms of my sport of badminton and my involvement with sport. So I've represented India at two Olympic Games in 2000 in Sydney, 2004 in Athens. Won 16 national titles in 17 years, including 9 consecutive senior national titles, which is a record. And I continue to be involved in a lot of sports activities like sports governance, sports coaching, and even TV commentary. I write a few columns here and there, and basically, I love sport, and I'm as much part of the sport as sport is part of me. But today I would not like to talk about what I have done, but more about what I'm feeling. And today, in the way things are, I think the word unprecedented has become a household name. We are living in these very strange times of the coronavirus, and while we all are grappling, for solutions of how many solutions are there, how will they work, who's going to make them work, when will they work at all or not, and I'm also grappling with those same sort of questions, and the truth is really I don't know. But whenever I come at this stage in my life, at least, I look back to sport because it's something that I identify with. And today I'd just like to take you through 3 stories that I have revisited actually in these days of the lockdown, and I'd just like to share them with you. The first one is about an athlete called Hisham Al Garouche from Morocco. And I'll take you through his 3 experiences at 3 different Olympic Games, starting in 1996 in Atlanta. He was the favorite in the 1500 meters, untested it at the Olympic stage. It was his first Olympics. Now with he basically collided with one of the fellow athletes and tripped and fell. The result of that was the athlete he collided with, who was a 3-time world champion, went on to win the gold medal. However, he came in 12th and last in that race. Now you push forward 4 years later, 2000 Sydney Olympics. He had 2 world championship titles by then. He had broken the world record. So obviously he was a favorite going into these Olympics. Now for somebody of that stature and being such a favorite, few hours before his run, he actually broke down crying, and he was just very, very nervous. And I think that sort of sapped his energy. He could not run at his best, landed up with a silver. Well, he didn't give up. He went on. Hisham, 2004 at Athens. What happens? He goes into the Olympics with 80 wins and 3 losses. That was his record. He was ranked number 1 for the 7th time. Now, he was again a clear favorite. But 3 months before, he had been plagued by allergies and respiratory problems. Now, when he was running the race with 2 laps to go, he started accelerating. With 50 meters to go, his opponent overtakes him. He just gets ahead in the nick of time and wins that race by 0.12 seconds. That's, where you see those images, and they're just so vivid in front of my eyes. He falls to his knees, and reality struck. He did win that gold medal after, waiting for 8 years. But, that was not all. He took part in the 5,000 meters as well. In less than 24 hours, he had the 5,000 meter heats. He qualifies for the finals. 4 days later, he runs the 5,000 meters for the first time in his life at the Olympics. And what do you know? He becomes only the second man in those 80 years to do a 1,500, 5,000 meter double win. With 8 laps to go, he was in 7th place. 250 meters to go, he was in 3rd place. And he still went on to win. The first story that I'd like to share with you. The second one is about our very own Abhinav Bindra, of course, India's only Olympic gold medalist, but in the 10-meter air rifle shooting. 2004 Athens, and this was an Olympics where I was there, present. And, when we knew he was part of the contingent, we knew there was huge buzz and hope that he would win a medal for India. But what happened when he was competing, there was where he took his stance and where he was standing, there was a loose tile under his foot. And for shooting, a sport that's decided by millimeters, this proved to be a huge disadvantage. And, he came back without a medal. Again, didn't give up, pushed on. 2008 Beijing. We know that, he did get us that first individual gold medal at the Olympics. But this was not without any stress, because minutes before the finals, he found out that his gun had been tampered with. Managed to keep his cool, still went on, and won that medal. He still pushed on. Look at 2016 Rio. He obviously was a much more seasoned competitor. He had been to Rio in advance, had checked out the Olympic venue, replicated the same environment at his home range, and then made a site. So the site is like a technical aspect that you load onto the, it's part of shooting as part of the equipment. And he got that made, customized it. It was one of a kind. Nobody else in the world had it. And that would have been a huge, help for him to compete. But the morning of his event, he put his gun on a table and that table collapsed. What happened was the gun fell down, the sight broke. Very hastily, he had to load on another sight that he hadn't used for a very long time. He shot with that, but unfortunately in the playoff, in the tie break, he could not get past his opponent and landed up in 4th place. So that's the second story. And the third story, which is one of my favorites, very quickly, it was the Japan, the women's World Cup football team. There was, a terrible earthquake in Tokyo. Their preparation was hampered. It was probably the most powerful earthquake in Japan. However, their participation, while it was suspect, they still proceeded on. They continued training under very, very challenging circumstances. Now, they got to Germany, where the World Cup was being held. And, this team that wasn't very popular, women's football wasn't very popular in Japan. but they got there knowing that they left a very stressed nation behind. And that sort of became their source of inspiration, because before the match they would see the videos of the victims, and that really motivated them. In the semis, they played against Sweden, 40,000 people watching, slow start. They were 0-1 down, but they won that match 3-1. Now you look at the finals, played against the US with 50,000 people this time in the stadium, 10 million people tuned in to watch. US was the favorite clearly, because out of 25 times that these two teams had played, US had won all of those 25 times. Right? Again, Japan was down 0-1 to start with. They got a 1-1 equalizer, went into extra time, down in extra time 1-2. Dying minutes equal it to 2-2, and eventually went on to win this match in the penalty shootout. So I think this is obviously turned out to be, much more than a soccer game for Japan, because it really symbolized the resilience of the Japanese people and gave them a lot of confidence. Now, the reasons that I share this story with you, and I revisited it really because, in life, sometimes the world may get in our way, sometimes others get in our way, sometimes we ourselves get in our way, and sometimes we envisage luck sort of getting in our way. But it's just things like, lessons like do not lose hope and stay positive. In small ways, if each of us stay positive and experiment with potential solutions, we might be able to turn the tide eventually, and you never know, one might end up winning not one, but 2 medals like Hisham did. The second, I think, is be prepared to do it all over again if you have to. You might be ahead, but if you really want to stay ahead all the time, recognize you can't. That's not going to happen. You might just have to climb all the way down and back up again. So be prepared to persevere and be patient. The third is really to be willing to adapt and change. And, as Abhinav himself has said, that whatever you prepare for, even if you're taking into account all the variables, something will go wrong. And you have to deal with it quickly and get on with whatever you have to do. And this was very evident with his experiences at the Olympics. Roger Federer had a mental trainer when he was 16, 17-year-old. He was a real hothead. But it was not until at the age of 20, when he himself convinced himself that he needed to change his temperament, that he managed to do and win that record number of titles. So it's important to adapt, change if need be, but the willingness to adapt and change has to come from within. And the last thing that I see is, teamwork and a firm motivation. Sometimes the motivation might come from the most adverse situations. Like in the Japanese women's soccer team story, in that case, even earthquakes and tsunamis or coronavirus in today's day and age will not be able to stop you if you have powerful motivation backed by solid teamwork. Helen Keller had said, "A bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn." And considering our current reality, the time has come to make that turn, individually and collectively. This is not the end of the road, and that is what I believe. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a great stories which you shared with us. It was such a great listening to you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, a very great question I have for you. Ma'am, as the time when you represented for badminton in Olympics, what was that feeling? How did you feel at that time when you listened that Aparna Popat from India? What was that feeling? Share, ma'am.
I think a lot of feelings actually mixed up, because at one point you feel relieved because it's something that you've been chasing all your life. On the other hand, you suddenly realize that there's a big responsibility, that you are representing a nation of 1 billion people, so that you have to go out and do more than your best, because that is the biggest stage in the world of sport. You also sort of feel very, very nervous. I remember the first Olympics I went to in 2000. I was very overawed with the situation. I don't think you can really prepare yourself for what is out there. It cannot be put down in words. But it's also extremely satisfying and exciting, not only for you personally, but for the team that has worked with you. because without them you wouldn't have gotten where you are. That you finally have made it to this pinnacle, and then therefore look for the best possible performance that you can have. And make your country proud, make everyone proud. But yeah, very very excited also to qualify and play the Olympics.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and we all are proud of you. Thank you so much, ma'am. So I now call upon Janvi over here. Over to you, Janvi.
Thank you, Aparna. It was such a huge lesson. The stories were great. With these, I would like to call upon our next speaker, Vibhas Sen, who is a marketer, IIMC alumni, and a sports diplomat, who would be presenting us today on the topic of sports. Welcome, Vibhas. Over to you.
Hi, thank you for having me. I mean, though I've just heard two stories as of now, I can't wait to hear more from the other speakers. So I look forward hearing from them. My story, the only common link which all the speakers have right now is sports, right? So sport is something what binds all of us together. My story, why it is different, because I play for India in the Paralympic Games for India in fencing, right? And yes, I mean my story is very different. The discovery for me for sport was completely by chance for me. I contracted polio when I was just 3 month old. I didn't knew what to do much. People around me were not sure how to go about it. But one thing what made me very strong is my family and my friends. They all always didn't see any of my weakness ever, right? They didn't treat me differently. And I think that kind of a mental strength when you start building from a very very small age, that take things in the positive way, right? See the positive side of the problem. There will be so many curveball thrown to you, but you have to manage and survive that life journey. So that journey actually made me very very resilient. I came out very very mentally strong. But and I completed my graduation. I did everything without facing any difficulties. When I speak with people, they usually end up asking me, Vibhas, what is your struggle? How did you manage to do it? And actually I have no words, because I never faced any struggle. Because it might be because I didn't feel myself differently, and hence I didn't feel that I need to be treated differently. Having said so, post my graduation, I started working, and something I knew that something I mean there is a missing ingredient in my life, right? I wanted to play sport, but I just couldn't figure out which sport to play, how to play. The awareness is very very less. I mean still that awareness is very low across the able body and differently able body. But of course differently able body, the awareness is very very low, right? So I was not sure how to go about it, but I told myself, take one day at a time. I tried and watching few videos on YouTube. I saw some a Paralympian of winning a gold medal without two hands and two legs, right? And that actually made me realize that these guys, they didn't even have limbs, and they did go on and win gold for the country. And I have two perfectly able upper limb and two lower limb, which is affected, right? So I realized that if they can do it, why can't I? So I should at least try, rather than living with a regret that I never tried it in the first place. So I went on to try with swimming. I took part in the first state championship way back in 2012. I won a silver medal, and that medal is something that has actually changed my life. Right? People ask me, what is your or which is your favorite moment? You have been so many medals. Which medal do you feel very proud. So I always go back to the first medal, though it was a state championship medal, but that medal actually opened doors which I never thought I would have seen. Right, that medal make me to take me to the national championship in swimming. Though I didn't win, but I realized that swimming was not what I'm good at. So I changed my sports into fencing. I played fencing, or I'm still playing fencing for India. I have won 3 national championship earlier. I've played for India in World Cup, World Championship, Grand Prix. Exposure. Suddenly, many doors started to open up. I was being called to speak on Sports Day at a different TEDx platforms. And suddenly, someone from the US State Department approached me. They really liked the way how I was using sport to advocate about accessibility of our exchange program in the United States. It's called Global Sports Mentoring Program. I attended that program for 3 months in United States, and that exposure completely changed my outlook of our sports. Right, I mean, during that program, I actually met, because it was a global a program. There were 16 people like me, but most of the people were from developing nation or from underdeveloped country, right? Speaking with them, knowing their journeys, I actually felt that India is so much better compared to them, right? We always script that the Indian government doesn't do this, they don't support Indian athletes, right? It's a very common, right? But when I went to that course, I saw, okay, India is not the only country which faces such issue, right? Even developed countries like UK, they don't have a proper program for people with disability who actually go and win medals. So, but having said so, the entire agenda of the program was, how do we use this sports, or how do we use the voice which the sport has given us to change the problem, right? The biggest problem across the world for people with disability is accessibility, right? And we realize that if we can all combine our voices together, talk about wherever we go, we try and speak about accessibility, of how this should be the crux, or this should be the a bigger problem which a person with disability face. So that program actually helped me a lot. The kind of amazing networking I was able to do, and because of the part of the program, we did get a funding also to pursue our advocacy at a grassroots level in India. And with that in mind, I started working with various NGOs, various bodies who are doing a lot of advocacy related work for accessibility. And I think I mean, with that you know with that kind of a work which I am currently doing, I actually feel very complete. Right? I am actually feeling that I am giving back to the society. I mean, playing for myself, though I was happy I was very proud that I am representing India. Giving back to the community was my bigger was my bigger challenge, and I think one step at a time. And Right now we're working with various such organizations on how you can develop sports in schools which are accessible for children who are a disability, right. Also working with various organization who are trying to promote employability for people with disability, right. So working with this different type of people who are doing a great work, trying to help them raise funds, because at the end all these or all these organizations, they need to have continuing their to keep continuing their entire a journey to advocate disability rights and to promote accessibility. So yes, I mean, so that having said so, I'm very lucky that I'm still continuing that. And India has come across. I mean, India things has really improved over the last 3 to 4 years. Things were not that great few years back, but I am very confident that things are actually moving in a very positive direction. So that's a small story about me, about my journey, and how I am giving back to the society. And I hope I'm really hopeful that I am able to give back to society in large uh, till I can.
Thank you, Vibhas. It was actually a huge lesson for each and everyone over here. There might be people who need motivation, who need to learn that yes, even they can achieve some of the things they might not even know of. With that, there is a question for you. That is, as you said, it wasn't very hard because you never felt that it was hard. But there are so many other people who take this as their weakness, which is so not the case. So, what is that one thing or some advice that you would like to give to other disabled peoples? I'm sorry, I use that word, but yeah. So, uh, those people who need to learn that no, even there are so much of opportunities, there are so many ways, there are so many career options that they could choose, and even sports is one of them. So, what is that?
Right. I think most of the people I across these days, they are people who actually got disability due to some accident, right? More and not someone like me who have actually lived my entire life being a disabled. So for them, it's really a different ball game altogether. They are not sure how to look at the life. They are very demotivated. But one thing I can only tell them that life doesn't end, right? I mean, life doesn't end if for whatever problem you have to just try and innovate, try and take help. There are people who are very open to help, right. You just need to be very self motivated. Don't think it's going to be the end of the life. Of course it's going to be difficult, but your parents, your support system, those are the one you have to rely on, and you have to start innovating to do things differently. So yeah, I mean, you have to just keep trying your luck, and think things will open sooner or later.
Okay, thank you, Vibhas. It was such a huge lesson for actually everyone because there were so many questions people asking like, if they have this, what should be done? If they have that, what should be done? But yes, things can be done as the way you want. It's just your determination. With these, I would like to hand over to Vedant. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vibhas, for such a great discussion which we had with you. It's a great thing. It's a great time to have with you. Thank you so much. So now we have Ankita Srivastav with us, who is an international athlete, liver donor, producer, a tech speaker, as well as a national swimmer. We welcome you, ma'am. Your topic is sports. Over to you, ma'am. Ma'am, it is your voice is on mute. Yeah,
Can
now on.
you hear me
Okay,
now?
sure.
Yes. So thank you, Vibhas, first of all, because you've spoken. I really don't know how I can come up to your level. So great stuff. And Aparna ji, I've been following you for a long time now. So that's amazing what you've done for India. And Vaidehi ji, we'll stay in touch, I think, after this. So primarily, I'll tell you about my story related to sports. Uh, so I am a liver donor. I donated my liver to my mother in 2014. Uh, some months later, she passed away because the transplant did not work. And as a lot of people know, liver transplant and liver donation it's one of the most complex procedure in human anatomy, because usually brain transplant is with or heart transplant is with somebody who's passed away. So the next most complicated procedure is liver transplant. So it took me an year and a half, I would presume, to recover to a stage where I could walk, sit, stand. So I have seen people who are sick and they go to the hospital. That's something that everybody's seen. Going to the hospital fit and coming back sick is a whole different story. So post that transplant, I just realized what had happened. And when we talk about giving, it's very easy to be a giver, and but when you donate a part of yourself, it's very different, and you realize it once it's done. So I realized it over the next few years, and because of the personality I was into sports since my childhood days. I was a national swimmer, national basketball player, and I was into sports all the time. So to me, recovery was so difficult because I had this challenge of just sitting in the bed for like days, being on the wheelchair, stretcher. All that plays a game with your brain. So post that, after I started doing my business, we do these wonderful business of intellectual properties. So we do something like Mickey Mouse. So we have our character, which is called Purple Turtle. So we were concentrating on that side of the business when we came to know about the World Transplant Games. World Transplant Games are basically organized by the Olympics Association, and might not be as popular in India like Summer Olympics, Winter Olympics, or Paralympics. But there was a contingent of 14 people who went in 2019. The games were in Newcastle, and I was one of them. And I had prepared rigorously for this, and because I had my business in place, so I didn't have that victorious choice like other participants to practice all the time, or like other athletes. So I would practice 4 hours in the morning, and then I had my work, and then again 4 hours in the night. So I devoted as much as I could, and I was in a situation where I thought that I can win one medal or so. I was participating in 4 events. So I reached there, and then I realized it's a whole different story. It's not as easy as it sounds, and it's pretty big when you're in that stage, when it's international. uh, so I have seen national events a lot of times, and I understand what scale they go through. So if it's happening somewhere, it's happening there, right? But with an international event, it's like a city is celebrating an event. So when I reached the Heathrow airport, there were people there, those who were supporting the volunteering staff. And then the games were in Newcastle, which is near London. And then the whole city was either volunteering for the show or coming in as an audience. So there was, everybody knew us. And somehow that created so much pressure on me that I realized that I didn't have a chance, because the Britain team had 200 participants and the US team had more than 100 participants, and all of them had better physique, better height, health than me. So I was kind of unsure about where I have landed. That created a lot of pressure. And this was a 7-day event, which on the first day we had a marathon where I came 13th. And then somebody who was expecting a medal coming 13th obviously pulled me down to shreds. But there were thousands of participants, and but that didn't help me console myself. So I went into this deep console where I didn't leave my hotel room, I didn't eat, drink, or I had just stopped communicating. And this whole World Transplant Games Federation had organized these programs. So there was a cultural visit happening, there was some activity happening every evening, every day. And I would not participate in any of it because I was deeply concerned about my games. And all my 3 events had to take place in the last 2 days. So those last 2 days, on the last second day, I had my 100 meters. So those 100 meters, we were very clear because I had seen the records of the previous years. I was aware who was my closest somebody who could beat me. So there was a Britain lady whom I was pretty sure was better than me. So she, I would like to presume, in the last 2 seconds, she got the gold and I got the silver. But to a person like me, I had dreamt of this for like so long and I had prepared for it so much. And my whole intention for this entire thing was to get a medal. So I was okay with the bronze as well. So getting a silver, I was pretty okay. I was so happy that I had called everybody. I had told that no, India has got a medal. And this lady got really concerned because when an event of that scale is going on, a lot of emotions are inbuilt and a lot of heat is there in that place. So she got really furious. And the next day we had two games, which was long jump and ball throw. So in the long jump event, what happens is long jump, I think everybody's aware, but still, the person who has the longest stride started first, and mine was the longest stride. So when you have the longest stride, people kind of presume that you are great, like you are the best. And that created another level of pressure in me. And as frank as I can be, usually the pressure is of people. Whatever you're doing in life, I think, is for people around you. You're not really doing it for yourself, because if I win a medal for my country and I have nobody to tell it to, it won't make me happy sitting with the country's medal inside a room. So usually you're doing it for your people, you're doing it for your country, or you're doing it for somebody. It's not just you. So that emotion that had already built in inside me, and she was the one who was more nervous. Like, she had got the gold, I was supposed to be nervous, but because she was so nervous, and my first, because my leap was the longest, mine was the first, and that turned out to be the gold. And these games have been happening for 37 years. So my score also went on to become a world record. And this lady, poor lady, she was so broken with what had happened that she left the field, and she eventually gave in to the pressure. So I was definitely, I was in a lot of pressure, and I had obviously thought of that moment for so long. But when you are there in the game, when you are there facing the world, you can't show that pressure. So all that pressure was inside the room. But when I was in the field, I was pretty calm. So she lost. And then there was the third event where I again got a gold. And the measurement, so it had a marking. The measurement of these all 35 years, they obviously have a certain parameter of judging the measurement. So my measurement went across the mark they had set. Like, that was the maximum somebody could throw to. So I had reached that mark, I had crossed that mark, and that also became a world record. And so I just realized that, what if you do not give in to the pressure? You can be pressurized, you can feel the heat of the moment, you can be stressed. It's very common. In fact, with sports people, whoever is playing, even school sports, if you are in that sports day with that 100-meter race, I know how much that means. and how much it used to mean when I was in my school days. So it means so much, but you don't have to give in to the pressure. At least you don't have to show that you have given in to the pressure. And then whoever here, all the panelists and all the TEDx speakers, whoever is here has reached through a story. But I also realize, because I meet so many people nowadays, and I just realize they're as human as everyone else. So we've just not given to the pressure. Everything else is as normal as everybody else is. So I think this is my short story, because I'm a liver donor and I'm a athlete. So I try and bring in both worlds together and try to promote organ donation and also promote sports. So, and you're a woman, so it's kind of a combination everybody is looking for. So this is what I do primarily. So you can ask any question, Janvi, if you want.
Thank you. Such a great discussion we had with you, ma'am. It was really very brilliant. Thank you so much, ma'am. We really learned so much from it. Thank you. So, ma'am, a great question for you. Ma'am, as you are an athlete, an international athlete, also a swimmer, we are full sports. So, ma'am, everyone has a background. Like, without the support of parents, we will not be able to come over here. Seriously. So, ma'am, who was your motivator? How did someone motivate you? How did your family motivate you to come here? Please share, ma'am.
So my story is very dramatic and very emotional, but we like to make it funny. So my mom passed away post the transplant, and my father separated from us. But luckily, so I met two wonderful people who came in my life, and they became my family. And actually, he motivated me. So my father, who's not my biological father, he was the person who motivated me to do all this. And the person that I'm talking about, the pressure that was created was because I didn't want him to feel down. I wanted him to be proud of me, and that was the entire reason why I was going through all this. So he was the person. So he's not my biological father, but by all means my father who helped me through this.
Yes, ma'am. Such a great motivator you have. Really great for you. We feel proud to you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Now we over to Janvi for further.
Thank you, Ankita. It was such a huge lesson for each and everyone. And yes, father plays an important role for each and every daughter present over here. It means a lot. Thank you. With these, I would like to call upon our next speaker, who is Paresh Gupta. He is the founder of GCEC, brand ambassador of Government of Rajasthan for youth and sports activities, who would be presenting us today on the topic of sports. Welcome, Paresh. Over to you.
Unmute. Yes. Hello. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
All good, yeah. So, I mean, great to see, and great to see so many amazing people. And I think everybody's story is so amazing and wonderful. I feel extremely small in front of each of the other speakers because I am not a sports person. So I mean, what everybody has shared is their sports story. I don't have a sports story to share here, but so what I can really do is to tell what things look like, what people should really look at right now. And I'll share a bit of my story in terms of how things have been in my life. Yes, struggles are always there. So I think have had a struggle story, which I can share and tell everybody that, how really things move on in life. But yes, I don't stand as a sports person. So yes, I have a lot to learn from every single speaker here who has really been a fighter. And I think, let's build this relationship between COVID-19 and all these sports people right now. And ironically and interestingly, I think sports teaches us one thing, which is never to give up. And I think COVID-19 is also giving us and teaching us exactly the same thing, which is not to give up. I think that is such an amazing, amazing lesson. Every single story that we have heard so far has been about, how people have been fighting in life, how people have stood back with tough times. And sports people are the best at it. I have seen the sportsman spirits, their willingness to fight back, the willingness to change strategies, the willingness to really grow is something amazing. So let me share a bit of my story and how things turned around in my life, and then let's talk about what are the opportunities for everybody post COVID. And that's exactly what I decided to think about and talk about today. So my story, very different, come from a very simple, humble background. Grew up almost, in a small town, and had serious issues. So serious issues in terms of being, not treated well in school. I was probably bullied in school, sexually harassed and molested. Went through troubled times. Tried to commit suicide some 3 times. Weakling. Did not know how to fight back at that point of time. I thought life is just not worth it. Went through serious struggles, at college level. Again, fought against several, people, you know, while things are going bad. But then I decided to fight back. So I decided to fight back in life and stood grounds. And that's exactly what I did. So I did good in my academics. I was the CBSE board topper in my 12th standard for the state. Then I went to Sri Ram College of Commerce, which is one of the best colleges in commerce. I again was one of the toppers in my final year. Again did well. I did my chartered accountancy. Again got pretty good scores. Then went to London, did my MBA from London School of Business and Finance. And every time it was a struggle. So I can tell you that, every single step sounds easy, but every single step was difficult. Every single time I had to go, struggle, fight back. I did not take a single tuition in my life, so never had the opportunity to take tuitions, never had the money. Chartered accountancy was done because it was the simplest and the cheapest course. I'm not simplest, but it was the cheapest course. So did not have too much money to afford any luxurious, courses like today's kids. And went through that series of problems around. So all of this happened. Again, did a good job, went on to becoming an investment banker, worked across the globe, went into multiple countries. And then I again fought a medical problem. So, exactly like Ankita, I was, so she had a liver transplant. I had a tumor, and I had a tubercular tumor in, in my lower abdomen. And that was a serious problem. So again, I was diagnosed with it. I was told that I have to go through about 9 months of chemo. I lost my skin, I lost my hair, I gained weight. I used to roll on the floor every morning because I could not get up from the bed. And tough times. And that's what brought me back to India. So my parents said, for whatever time we want to, you want to be here, let's live here and come back here. Decided to come back to India, packed up my bags from, Bahrain and London, and just returned back to India to be with my family. And trust me, because of family, I'm fit and fine. I am pretty cool now, back to normal, back to my life. Started a lot of things, failed in a lot of things. Today, I have this college which supports entrepreneurs. I mentor as many people as possible to start their own careers, start their new journeys. I try to help them to build life again. So we give them business ideas, we give them opportunities, we tell them what is possible, and possibilities are great. So that's exactly my short, sweet story. But let's talk about COVID-19 and what from today now. So what should we look at for the future? And my vision for everybody is, start looking at two sides. One is, if you're a sports person, then there is a lot to be done. If you're not a sports person, then there is still a lot to be learned from sports people. And then what is it that the world looks like? So this is the condition which is going to stay, and it's not going to go away. But we have some things to look up and learn from. So, there was another webinar which was going on, and somebody asked me this question that, tell me about work-life balance during COVID. And, I learned one thing. And that is something which actually straight away hit me because of the sports people, on around me. I said, there is no work, it's life. And what I see is people actually try to live life. And that's exactly what sports people do. They make sports their life. Only when you do that, then you become the best person. So it's now about life. It's about fighting for yourself. It's about fighting for your own self, being, being there. So life, work is just a part of your life. So make it as a part of life. Don't make it your life. There is no balance between the two. It's not as important as your life. Life is way more important than work. So yes, if your work is stopped for some time, it's okay. Worry about your life first. I think see it as an opportunity, because only when a person is defeated, and I remember these beautiful poems, beautiful lines from one of the poems which I read as a child, that success is counted sweetest by those who near succeed. And that's exactly what refers to a sports person. There are multiple times that you fight, you fail, and only when you fail that you realize this is what you're supposed to do to win the game. And I think let's look at this situation as a game. We are there. We were doing everything under our, privileges to ruin the earth, and earth fought back and started giving us back and saying, oh, see, here is what I can do with this small a virus. And I think that's exactly what we should now start looking at. And we should start thinking, oh, is this what we're trying to do here? Oh my God, we are supposed to look inside. We are supposed to look at life very differently. All the things that you have not done so far. Probably you wanted to be a painter, singer, dancer. You had some inner talent which you have really not spent time on. Why not do this right now? I mean, so this is one thing which I think should come back. Look at all the life lost, projects. So things which you're not handling. Call back all your friends, call back all the people that you were in touch with. And those are the amazing lessons that I am learning from sports people. I think also another thing which I learned from all these sports people is to take care of your health. So you can't go out, you really can't, do a lot of stuff. And I do see health people being conscious, again taking care of things within the homes. So please do that. I think that is a very, very important thing, that please take care of your health around. Please do certain activities and certain physical activities continuously. Don't let that happen. So people do tend to become lazy, loud, and start watching web series and just lying on the bed doing nothing, eating a lot of greasy food. Stop doing that. I think that's one big lesson. Be strict on your diets, be strict on your physical health, maintain your weights, maintain your physique. Do not let it go. And that's a very, very important lesson. Now, let's come to the core part of the conversation as to what sports field looks like in the next, few months from now, and what is the arena looking like. And I'll tell you some very interesting opportunities. And before I move on to so very interesting opportunity which comes down to me is esports. So yes, you have been doing physical sports, but there is a whole gamut of esports emerging. It's a great business opportunity, learning opportunity, and earning opportunity. Yes, you take care of your health otherwise, and a lot of people are doing it, and there is a serious opportunity around it. So esports is really rising. The prize money is huge these days. And all those who have this adrenaline rush, all those who have some inclination towards sports, my take is please start, just checking out esports officially. In fact, you'll be surprised, but esports have been now taken up in the Asian Games as an official game. So there are like 5 or 6 games which are introduced last Asian Games. And this year they had planned, this time they had planned to introduce, esports as official sports. And all the committees, even Olympics is trying to evaluate esports as a future game. So this is there to stay. And we should definitely look at esports as a great career opportunity. Start evaluating it. It's a different way of life, and sports people are always there to move on. If you face an injury, you don't just stay back there. You move on to another thing. If technology is the way to go forward, esports is one thing which you can look at. Other opportunity which I realized, and a lot of startups I'm mentoring is, there are people who are home sports and home activities. So there's again a whole culture which is building where all these great people, all those who are there and who have been great sports people can actually start their live lessons. Coaching will look very differently now. And it has to be, so a lot of people will be available as coaches. So this is the time to get coached. Coaching doesn't require too many people. So yes, you can get coached, you can work on yourself. There is a full time that you have to really start working on, your podcast. So probably start a podcast and probably start beyond just the physical activities, probably start sharing those live lessons and live, lecture series with people. Tell them how to become, active. The other thing which I feel is a lot of sports people and all the people who are sports fighters should start sharing their stories online. And there's a lot to share online. There is a lot of storytelling. Like today, amazing sessions. They have great stories and they are the best motivators. So why not start looking at motivating people, So there's again a whole gamut of motivational opportunities for people. People can start motivating others, start thinking about, can you share your stories? Can you share your struggles? And that actually gives a lot of help to people, because only when you listen to somebody else's story that you get, empowered. So I do feel that sports people should start looking at that. And the most important part is cash and money. uh, I think, the most important part here is that start looking at sustainability. So start thinking about some sustainable opportunities for yourself, start building alternative opportunities, and be sustainable. So I think these are certain things which I want to share with everybody, that look at life from post COVID, start doing some amazing stuffs. And I wish you all the luck. I think things will be super good. Everybody should be, doing great. And I wish all the sports people all the best. I'm always there to help in any way.
Thank you, Paresh. It was such a youth lesson and nice also. So there is a one question for you, that as you said that we need to plan our diet and have a little bit of exercise and everything. There is one specific question, that when you are in stress, nervous, how do you balance your diet at that time?
When you are stressed, then then you first de-stress. And I think, only when you're de-stressed that you can really have a balanced diet. So of course, and there are things that you have to control yourself. So what to do when you're stressed out? I'll tell you something very, very interesting, and something about our psychology. Whenever we are sad and upset, we try to cut ourselves from everybody else. So we say, oh, I want to be alone, I want to stay away. We are already put into that situation of being away from people. Now, you'll be surprised, but most people actually need social interaction to come out of that sorrow at some point. So, whenever you are with somebody else who's jovial, who's nice, loving, fun loving, and, energetic, you do derive that energy. So my answer to you is very simple, that please contact a sports person, right? Get down to sports people. They will give you that energy again. They will be the people who will give you that smile again and say, oh, come on, yeah, you can fight back. And that is the way to first de-stress. And then they'll probably tell you how to take care of your diet and health, because yes, those are standard structures, so yes, this is diet given, but first smile, first come out of that depression. To do that, I think just reach out to some 5 people, forget that sorrow amongst yourselves. Don't sit and huddle down in one corner, come out and, make it happen. So yeah, this is what.
So as you said, go and reach out for the sports personalities.
Yes.
And I agree that those people have a different aura, different angle to view each and every problems and even to solve them.
Absolutely.
But I really need to know that when did you come across these ideas? Because this is something that you could recognize only when you have seen it, or when you have people from that background, like someone near about.
Okay, so I'll tell you something very, very, very personal, which most people don't know about. And this is about my mom. Okay. And my mom has had so I tried committing suicide 3 times, had a troubled childhood. And I was fairly depressed and sad. And then, my mom shared her story with me. And, you'll be surprised, but my mom had 2 brothers who also committed suicide. And she said that I have seen this happening in my family. I have seen sorrow in my life. And it's up to you. You have 2 choices. Either you die or you fight back. Start looking at, and you'll be surprised, but both her brothers were married with kids. So they were those dependents. And I could see those dependents having a very, very strong struggle. And my mom said, see, this is the struggle which people face when they lose a near and dear one on whom they are dependent. So your death is not, you might probably be okay, but there are so many other people who you leave behind and who will be in problem. Plus, you have to make a choice. Either you die, then you die. Then you're not good for anything. You are good for nothing. Or otherwise you fight back. Why do you want to sulk in the middle? Don't sulk. So be a productive person. Your presence on earth has some value. Please value yourself. Please value your presence on earth. And I think that was the biggest lesson when I said, okay, I have to fight back. And you know what? We are always scared of, see, why do you want to get into depression? Because you have something to hide. You're worried about something. You don't know the answers to certain things. But you'll be surprised, but that's not the first time that probably you're facing it for the first time, but the others who have not faced it before. So you reach out to such people. So I started reaching out to people and saying, oh, this is my problem. Somebody said, oh, I've already solved this. Yeah, dude, come on. This is the way to solve it. And you start learning from others. So yes, this is something which I have not shared anywhere in the past so far. But since you asked me this question, my mom has given me brilliant strength. She's a fighter and she taught me how to be a fighter. I'm still learning, honestly. And I have still miles to go, frankly.
Yes, life is a lesson where we need some lessons to be learned and some
Absolutely.
even we need to unlearn, definitely. So with these Thank you, Paresh. It was such a huge lesson.
My
And over to you, Vedant.
Thank you so much, Paresh sir. Such a great informative topic. Proud of you, sir. Thank you so much. You face such an issues with your life, but you are here. Thank you so much. So now we have with us Meghna Reddy Gundlapalli. Welcome you, ma'am. Welcome you here. She is a number one Indian rhythmic gymnast. She will be speaking on the topic sports. Over to you, ma'am.
Hi everyone, my name is Gundapalli Meghna Reddy and I'm a rhythmic gymnast. And I think the first question that comes up when I say I'm a rhythmic gymnastic is what exactly is rhythmic gymnastics? So I'm sure people have heard about gymnastics. They've heard about Deepa Karmakar, who qualified for the Olympics, who was the first Indian gymnast to qualify for the Olympics at 2016. So people are aware of what gymnastics is, but what they don't know is that there are different kinds of gymnastics. So the main ones are artistic gymnastic, rhythmic gymnastic, acrobatics, aerobics, and trampoline. So all of these different sports come together under one name known as gymnastics. And well, I do rhythmic gymnastic. I think the main difference, the main way to differentiate rhythmic gymnastic is it's an all women oriented sport. So the competitions that happen, the world championships, the world cups, even in the Olympics, it's only the women who participate in this sport. And another thing is, it is one of the most beautiful sports you'd see. And I like to call it as like, a performance sport because it has a very heavy influence of ballet in it. And we perform a routine of 1 minute 30 seconds to music. So in that 1 minute 30 seconds, we have to choreograph our routines to the music, and we get to tell a story. It can be our story or it can be any story that we tell, but in that 1 minute 30 seconds, without speaking, without talking, just using our emotions, using our body expressions, we need to convey our message or our story to the judges as well as the audience. So that's one of the reasons why I like to say it's a performance sport. And also, other than that, if you look at our the leotards we use, or the makeup and the hair and everything that you see, it is one of the most glamorous sports you'll see out there. And nothing about beauty being, because the sport is entirely about being beautiful, presenting yourself in a beautiful way, and nothing about beauty is ever easy, or neither is it cheap. When it comes, you have to make sure you're perfect, you have to make sure that everything is on point. So that is one of the main difficulties in this sport as well, because you need to be able to show that perfection while performing, while competing. At the same time, it should not be seen on your face that you are nervous, or you're doing something so difficult. So no matter how hard the elements you're doing, no matter how hard the movements you're doing, you have to always keep that expression in your face. And I believe that's what makes this sport quite difficult. So that is a little bit about rhythmic gymnastic. And I first found out about this in 2010. I used to go for gymnastic lessons here in Hyderabad at the LB Stadium. And in the beginning, it was just to accompany my brother. He was the one who actually started gymnastics. And I used to go with him. I used to sit outside the class, and then I used to there used to be this little window next to the door from which we used to peek through, and then we would be able to see the people training, the kids training. And one day I saw the kids, they were jumping on the trampoline, and any 11-year 12-year-old kid, I was that really that I found that really attractive. That was something so fun. And I had always been a child from childhood. I was always the kind of kid who was very hyperactive, who couldn't sit in one place. So looking at those kids jumping on the trampoline, that really excited me. And that was the thing that made me get into gymnastics. Once I joined gymnastics, the coach in the beginning was actually pretty adamant about taking me as a student, because I was already 11 years by then. And in this sport, 11 years is usually considered old. So this is a sport where kids start from the age of 3 and 4, and it is easy to develop the flexibility or the strength needed for the body to be able to become a good gymnast. It's easy at that age. But when I started, the coach said, he was my coach, And he said that, I wouldn't get anywhere, I wouldn't get far in this sport. Like, it would be great if I even got till state level. And that was something that that's how I had been from the beginning. Whenever someone said that I couldn't do something, I took that as my motivation, and I used to work even harder to be able to achieve that thing, to show that, no, just because you said that I cannot do it doesn't mean that, I don't have the passion for it, or that, I cannot achieve it. And now my coach says, like, if he would have known how stubborn I was in continuing the sport, he would have kept me, he would have trained me as an artistic gymnast. So when I started, he suggested I go into rhythmic gymnastic, because back then this was a sport where, the kids who were like not very good, or like, who were just doing it for fun or for time pass, they used to join into rhythmic gymnastic, because there were not many players, there were not many competitors at that time. This is how I got to know about rhythmic gymnastic. But in 2010, I got to see the Commonwealth Games that happened in Delhi. And I was there at the stadium. I was there seeing it live in the stadium. And let me tell you, like, seeing a competition live, like, any sports event you take, seeing it live has a whole different vibe. It's like, the environment that is there, and the audience, the athletes, everything that you see, you can see their emotions, you can see the emotions on their face, like, in person, and that has a very different effect on you. So being there in that stadium, and like, seeing the crowd cheering for our Indian team, as well as the other competitors who were there, and most of all, you could see in the eyes of the athlete, how proud they were to be representing their country, to be representing their nation at an international level. So that really inspired me. That made me realize, that this is my passion, that this is what I want to do. I wanted to represent something that was bigger than myself, and I wanted to represent my country, and back then, obviously, I wasn't aware of what it was, because I was still a kid. But I knew that, even if I missed a single day of training, I used to be like, really upset. I used to like throw tantrums around the house, saying that, I want to go to class. And in the beginning, like, we used to wake up, like, me and my brother, both of us, we used to wake up at 5:30 in the morning. We used to get ready, go for, like, we used to take bath at 5:30 in the morning. And back then, that was like, it was so hard, because we were still kids and we wanted to like sleep in. So we used to get ready by 6. We used to go for class from 6:30 to 8. And then from there, we used to go directly to school. And then after school again, come back to class, and then home. So the first few years were like, hard, and they were difficult. But I enjoyed every bit of it. Like, even now, I have been enjoying every part of the process. Like, whether it is training, competitions, or even like, vacations, holidays, whatever it is, I enjoy every bit of it. And I guess you could say that, I went from being a spectator to a participant uh, at the Commonwealth Games. So I saw the Commonwealth Games in 2010. I got inspired then. I tried to qualify for the Indian team in 2014, but I wasn't still good enough then. I didn't have the experience. I did not have the what do you say, I guess I didn't put in enough work, the work that I needed to be able to get me into the national team. Like, I know I worked hard those 4 years, but I still needed that experience. I was still young. I did not know how to handle the stress of competition at that time. So I couldn't make it in 2014. But finally in 2018, I got the chance to play at the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games. And I have to say that is like one of my most proudest moments, because like, this is what I wanted to achieve from the beginning. So I think one of this a small bit that I like to share. Whenever people ask me what's my most memorable moment, it is this. Okay, I guess my time is almost up. I'll just finish off with this. So at the 2018 Commonwealth Games, when we first went on to the carpet, it was a huge stadium, and that was one of the biggest competitions I've played in my life. So we go onto the carpet, and then I was in my starting position. I got ready, and there was this moment of silence. It was just like half a second, 1 second before my music started, before I heard my beep and the music started. And that second of silence was like everything that I had gone through in the last 10 years. Like, it reminded me that everything that I worked hard for had finally paid off. So yeah, that is one of my favorite moments so far in my entire sporting career, and I think that would still be even after I retire, or even if I look at it 10 years down the line. So yeah, I think we don't have much time, and yeah, I would just finish with that.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, Meghna, ma'am, for such a great information you shared. It was pleasure to listen you, ma'am. So, ma'am, a question for you that we have so many type of people. Like they say, I want to become a doctor. I want to become a CA. I want to become something else, engineer or anything. But there are very few people who we found that they say, I want to become a sports person. So, ma'am, what was your decision at that time? Or did you want to become something else? Or from starting only you want to come in sports? Please share.
No, I'm actually the first person from my family in sports. And, I was still a kid when I actually realized that, this is what I want to do full time. And there was obviously, I think I wanted to become a painter. I had a phase where I wanted to become a painter. I wanted to become a pilot. I wanted to become an archaeologist. Like, I had all these phases. But I think when I compete, when I am out there competing, the kind of happiness I get, the kind of satisfaction I get from that is something that I haven't found in anything else. So I think that's what made me realize that, this is the profession that I want to get into.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was pleasure to have you here. Now over to you, Janvi.
Thank you, everyone. It was nice meeting you all, as well as learn so much of things individually. And looking from your perspective, it was a real huge different story for us. Each one of you had so much things that we never thought of as for a start. So thank you for telling us, for sharing your experience as well as your expertise that you had. With that, I would personally like to thank the Vaidehi Vaidya ma'am for teaching us that there are so many females out there, and it's a thing that a woman is good when she is individual, but she is one of the best of her kind when so many women, females, join her. So that makes a regular different impact on each and every one, and this would definitely help others to grow, especially in this era. I would also like to thank Aparna Popat ma'am, who told us that we need to stay positive, we need to try till we succeed. And this is not the end. Come on, there is something that we call sportsman's spirit, and everyone has it. Even when you are not in sports, you could utilize it, you could take it back, and you could make it as your strength so that you could reach your goals. I would also like to thank Vibhas Sen for teaching us and encouraging us that disabilities don't stop you. It's your mindset that hampers your growth. You need to overcome those mindset. You need to like think, rethink. There might be possibilities that sometimes some things may not work in your case, but surely there must be something for you, because life has reserved something for each and everyone over here. And if you are having a life, there is something definitely for you to do, but you need to find it. I would like to thank Ankita Srivastava for teaching us the power of giving, especially when we even don't have much with us. For teaching us that attitude that you should never give up, no matter what. There are so many times the situations might not even under your control. Emotions might be at havoc. You even might know what's the next step you need to take, but this is life and we need to move ahead. Thank you. I would also like to thank Paresh Gupta for providing us and teaching us that facilities and ideology. These are all in our hand. If you wish to facilitate someone, you could do that. And if you want to change someone else's ideology and make him, her positive more, you can also do that. It's all about perspectives, it's all about determination that you have. No one else has a hand in that matter except our family. I would also like to thank Meghna Reddy Gundlapalli for teaching us that age doesn't matter, gender doesn't matter at all. The thing that would lead to your success is your attitude, your passion, your determination to keep going on, to look forward to each day, arise, and then work upon it. Even though there might be people who might be against it, but still keeping that faith, yes, we can achieve it and we can do it, is something that would take us to the next level, to our destination. Thank you, everyone. With these, I would also like to thank Planotech Media House for providing us such a huge opportunity where we could come together, work upon our misunderstandings, problems. We could share, we could experience each other's things that we might not even have considered before this webinar. And also, I did learn so much of expertise, so much of knowledge from each and every speaker present over here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Bye.
Thank you.
It was our pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us.